Welcome this morning as we gather as God's people. And as I say every Sunday, there's no better place than this to be gathered as God's people. Although as God's people, we are scattered in our different places of shelter. But we are still gathered together in the Spirit. And so welcome this morning on the third Sunday of Easter. This morning, Ann and Cindy Wilson will be playing special music for us. The gospel text this morning is the story of the road to Emmaus. It's taken from Luke 24, verses 13 through 35. In this gospel story, the two disciples are walking down the road, and they're talking about what has transpired when Jesus had died. And all of a sudden, a stranger joins them, and they don't recognize that it's Jesus. And they tell Jesus when he asks, what's going on? What's happening? And they tell Jesus all about what has happened and ask, how can you not know about this event? And then Jesus eventually reveals himself, tells them who he is in the breaking of the bread. The story of Emmaus, walking. Two friends walking and talking. So I went to a high school of over 2,000 kids. One day, I remember vividly walking down the hall with a group of my friends. And I heard a group of guys from behind me yell out, "Hey, you, are you a Pleiss?" I remember thinking in my heart, oh my word, they recognize me as a Pleiss. I wonder how it is they recognize me. At the time, my brother was an outstanding athlete, a good football player. The girls really liked him because he had long blonde hair down to his shoulders and he had blue eyes. Oftentimes, girls liked me just so that maybe my brother would date them. I could tell them all about them and Mike would want to date them. But I was thinking to myself, how was it that they knew that I was a Pleiss? I was conjuring up in my heart all sorts of reasons that they knew that. And then I said to them, how did you know I was a Pleiss? And one of the guys said, because you walk just like your brother. You're bull-legged and you kind of walk like a duck. I remember thinking, wow, that's not exactly what I was expecting. You see, I have Pleiss legs, and I walk like a Pleiss. I've taken lots of hits over the years about the way I walk. People have identified me often by my Pleiss walk. So I've thought about that Pleiss walk, identified by the way I walk. You see, I have and always have had little short, stocky, muscular legs, part of being a Pleiss. I'm bull-legged and I walk like a duck. But then I began thinking over the years, I love these legs. They have taken me over miles and miles of walking and running over the years. These legs, the way I walk, being identified as a Pleiss, these legs have taken me on incredible journeys, and I am grateful for these legs. I'm grateful that I have walked and run so many miles, and I look forward to all the miles that I will walk, identified by the way I walk as a Pleiss. So you see, today in the gospel text, the disciples are walking. How important it is, I think, for them to get out and walk. All these events have happened, and they need to get out and walk and talk. And so there they are walking down the road. And then all of a sudden this stranger appears and they don't recognize his walk. They don't recognize that this is Jesus until he will identify himself. You see, Jesus chose to walk with them, to walk beside them, to hear of their talk and their wondering and their questions. And so they walked. I think it's really quite lovely that in this story they're walking. How important it is to walk and talk. I've been thinking about us. Now, all of us, we are on this journey, aren't we? As the disciples were on the journey, walking to Emmaus, we too are on a journey. And I am wondering, how is it that you and I are walking? And will people be able to identify us as God's followers, as the followers of Christ, by the way in which we are walking through this time? We are walking through a time, aren't we, that not one single one of us really knows in what direction we need to be walking. We're not sure of the destination. We're not sure of the journey, but we are walking this journey, aren't we? And I think this story reminds us that in the walking, people will identify who we are, who it is we call Christ. Walking this journey, will people identify us as Christians in the way we walk? Micah 6:8 says, "What does the Lord require of you but to do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly with your God?" And so here we are, walking this journey, aren't we? You see, some of us like to walk fast. Some of us like to walk slow. Some of us like to walk with walkers. Some of us would rather run than walk. Some of us are walkers who count our steps. Some of us are runners who count the miles. Some of us wear Fitbits to record how many steps we have on the journey of walking. We're all walking this journey differently, aren't we? But we are all walking this journey. And what I think is most important for us to remember is just as Jesus showed up that day, that there might be times as we are walking that we don't recognize the Christ who is walking right with us. I think it's important that we are reminded in this story that although we are walking in an unknown time, oftentimes a fearful time, that even in this journey of walking, we have a Christ Jesus who walks right beside us. And sometimes we have a Jesus who walks in front of us. And sometimes we have a Jesus who walks in back of us, a Christ who walks in back of us in case we falter and fall back, a Christ who will catch us and continue to walk with us, giving us guidance, supporting us, assuring us of his constant presence of walking with him. So we are walking this journey together, aren't we? Although we might walk differently, we are walking this journey together, but we are never walking this journey alone. And to be reminded that we are called to walk with one another, to walk with one another in our support, our care, our compassion, our understanding, our sadnesses, our fears, our joys, our happy times and laughter. But I think what we most need to be reminded of, that we always, always need to be walking in the direction of love. And we have a Christ who has promised that he will walk with us always, always in the direction of love. So may you and I go for a walk. That's all I've got.